What is up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome back. It's the second Steelers Source podcast in the same day, and it's all because of the Brandon Aiyuk situation, which just won't go away. But maybe it is after the latest phone call we had with our source inside the Steelers organization. I'm going to break it down, but Dave Schofield's going to jump in here shortly, but I'm going to break it down what we heard right out of the gate, and that is that unless something drastically changes, the Steelers are out. The Steelers are out on Brandon Aiyuk. Again, that there might be a 1% chance that they would obtain him and all the other stuff that it would take. We talked about all the moving parts earlier in the earlier podcast about the Steelers' interest in the latest, what we're hearing. But now the most up-to-date news coming from the source is that the Steelers, barring something drastically changing, they're out. They're no longer in the sweepstakes for Brandon Aiyuk. So, Dave, hearing that, what are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts? It's not over until either he resigns with San Francisco or it signs somewhere else. So it's, even though they're out, sometimes being out means that other things can change and you're back in. I said that before. So does that now mean it's impossible? No. But at the same time, the Steelers are basically saying, we're not giving up any more than this. We won't do it. End of story. Because I even saw stuff from some 49ers coverage that, now the Steelers, they'll just offer a little bit more and then when it can get done. Looks like they're not doing that.
It's kind of like a staring contest between Omar Khan and John Lynch. And Omar's like, look, here's the deal. Here's the offer. And if you don't want it, we're not budging. And so John Lynch and the 49ers likely said, we're not budging either. So they're like, fine, we're done. We're out. Now, that doesn't mean the doors close all the way, because the only thing that would reopen the door is if the 49ers open and say, okay, Steelers, things have changed. We want this instead of that. And we'll agree to this and not that. So again, is it impossible? No. But even earlier today, we said it was not likely. It was not likely. It was possible, but not likely. Now it just seems like the door is almost completely shut on this. It would take something drastic changing, probably on the 49ers end, for the Steelers to be able to get back into the mix or want to get back into the mix. So I know I've said this a bunch. I'm excited for this to be done. But like you said, Dave, it's not technically done until the guy signs somewhere, whether it's with the 49ers, with another team. I don't know. I don't see these doors opening back up, to be honest.
Well, yeah. Well, and I think that has a lot more to do with the 49ers, because I don't know if this is exactly true or not, but if I recall, did the Steelers end up getting Justin Fields for less than what they were even willing to give up in the first place before everything, when they were originally talking? I do believe that's the way it worked out. So, but that was because so many other things changes. Things can still change, but right now, as it stands, I think that's a better move for the Steelers. It's very difficult to bring in a player and make them your highest paid player on the team from the outside. The Steelers don't do that. Are you going to really bring in Brandon Aiyuk and pay him more than TJ Watt? Are you really going to give up what the 49ers want? Are they still talking first round pick? Are you still talking about first round or maybe second round pick and a player? Those kind of things. There just seems to be so much to it that the Steelers are like, we're giving up a lot. We won't give up anymore.
Yeah, and the thing was when you talk about this situation in particular, and you look at where's the concern for the Steelers fan base? Yes, they want the name. Yes, they want the talent, but they also want the wide receiver position to be addressed, because let's be honest, it really has not been addressed this entire offseason. It's one of the glaring holes remaining on the roster. I do think there's going to be some very capable receivers that are going to be cut from other rosters that could come in and help aid in that situation. Are they of a Brandon Aiyuk profile? No. But it could still better the room. And so the Steelers could still have options. Could the Steelers make a trade for someone else that's not as high profile? Possibly. I don't have any information on that right now. But I think that this has always been something, the Steelers were interested in Deebo Samuel. They were interested in Brandon Aiyuk and other receivers around the NFL prior to the draft. Well, after the draft, things change. You keep those lines of communication open. That's something Omar Khan has talked about a lot in all of his media availabilities. And it just doesn't seem like this is going to work out or come to fruition. So I guess the ball's in the 49ers court and Brandon Aiyuk's court, and we'll see if he goes anywhere. I'm going to stand by my word, Dave, earlier when we did the earlier podcast where I said the probability for me is that he plays for San Francisco again this year, that he plays for the 49ers. He signs it. I don't know. He shows up and I guess just lives up to his contract because he's under contract. We talked about that too. And tries to win a Super Bowl. And then he gets paid handsomely in free agency unless they decide to franchise tag him. I don't know. What are you feeling?
Well, I feel, especially with the Steelers being out, because it seems like what's hung up on that end is more on the trade with the 49ers. If the 49ers do, in fact, have a trade worked out, which could have just been leaking some false information just in order to try to get other teams to sweeten, like Pittsburgh, to sweeten the deal. If they really do have the trade factors worked out with two teams, then Aiyuk has to choose. Do I want to play? Yeah. Do I want to work out a contract with this team and play there, this team and play there, or play with it, or play this year on, with the 49ers, or take the deal that they were offering me if it's still on the table. So those are four options if there are really two other teams, I mean, technically you could say a fifth option, he could sit out, but I don't see how sitting out the season's really going to benefit him. So when you look at it, out of those four options, two of them have him in San Francisco, is staying and playing out his current deal or taking the supposed deal they offered him. So that's why I would say that is the most likely, because there's more options that do take staying there into account. Yeah. And that's a team that's really on the cusp of things. They were too many injured quarterbacks away from going to the Super Bowl 2 years ago and in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah. So let's okay, we're not talking about the 49ers anymore. Let's talk about the Steelers and more particularly Dave. So with the news that the Steelers are again 99% out on this, barring something drastic changing. There's still that 1% chance, but still it's not likely. They're out. What's your gut reaction to hearing the news that the Steelers are out?
My gut reaction is good job to not overpay.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, because if you're not going to get the deal for what you feel comfortable doing, then don't go too far and do the deal. So good job to not overpay, because it's really tough to bring in a player that, yes, they're established in the NFL. I don't think we could argue that Brandon Aiyuk wouldn't make the Steelers better. Now, could it change the dynamics? Yes, it could. Would that raise questions with the future of George Pickens? Yes, it could. What would the Steelers be giving up players-wise? Or are they gaining strength there to lose it in another area because they had to give up a player? That very well could be possible, and we don't know what that really was. So you can't argue that the wide receivers wouldn't be better if you added him. But at the same time, is it all about this year more like it is with San Francisco, or is it more about the Steelers continuing to build things? If you were one wide receiver away from being, your best shot to win a Super Bowl, possibly, then I would say, if you got to sell the farm a little bit, then go do it. Are you convinced that the Steelers are one wide receiver away from being, really increasing their odds of winning the Super Bowl?
No. And, you look at everyone says,
and that's why you don't do it.
Right. And so everyone's like, oh, the offense is so underpaid. Well, they're going to have to pay a quarterback.
Yeah.
So you figure one of these two guys, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, is going to get paid. I would rather them figure that out first, then let's worry about the wide receivers. And I understand people are going to say, but this is about this year. Not with Brandon Aiyuk, it wouldn't have been. It's not about just this year. It's about a long-term contract that he's going to want with a lot of guaranteed money. So it's not just about this year. I've said it on multiple podcasts before. I'd much rather see them get Cam Hayward figured out what they're going to do with his contract. I'd extend TJ Watt. I know he has 2 years left, and that's only a quarterback thing. He's that level of player. Get his deal done. See if it frees up some space in the early years, and then you can have some capital and some space to work on and fill some of these holes. And I know we're talking more 2025, but it is what it is. I got to be honest. When I talked to the source and he said, hey, they're out, I was like, good.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't think it made sense. It didn't make sense for all the reasons that we had already discussed. It didn't make sense to me. The trade, it wasn't like a Deebo Samuel earlier, which I was more okay with before the draft because he's under contract for, I think, 2 more years after this year. So you would just pick up his contract and that made things simpler. Brandon Aiyuk was going to need a whole new deal, and that's going to be ridiculous, especially when you see what wide receivers are getting paid. So, Dave, any final thoughts?
Yes. Final thoughts are the Steelers are out. That doesn't mean that San Francisco will try to pull them back in.
True.
I think it's wise for the Steelers to be out. But if San Francisco can't work out anything else and it's still not going well, when they try to pull the Steelers back in, guess what? That price, Omar Khan, you played it right, and that price should even be lower now. So that I like this play of going this way. Like you said, it's extremely improbable that this would happen. But like I said, if teams all of a sudden realize, hey, we were trying to play hardball and we're playing with the wrong guy, if the Steelers get back in, it's because they're pulled back in because the terms have changed. But being out with the way things are going right now, I think is the right move.
Yeah, and Omar, we trust.
Yes.
All right, Dave, as always, thank you for your time. Make sure you stay tuned to SteelCurtainNetwork.com for all your Pittsburgh Steelers needs. Again, SteelCurtainNetwork.com, as well as on the audio-only feed, wherever you get your podcast, search Steelers or Steel Curtain Network, you'll find us. Check us out on YouTube as well, youtube.com, Steel Curtain Network. Dave, as always, thank you, man. Appreciate it.